this was a very, very confusing case when I tried to figure out who was the abuser and who was the victim. It it did take a lot of effort to get to the bottom of it. It's not as simple as you would think. And I don't appreciate like people telling me that I haven't listened to both sides, that I haven't gotten all the information, and I haven't done enough research, because I have done enough research, and I got to the, well, now I think it's different with these lawsuits. Who was the actual abuser is different, but before that, in the marriage, who was the actual abuser? I think that's the tricky thing. And their therapist said something about mutual abuse, and some people don't like that term. I'm not against it. Um, I'm. I think that there's a possibility in some areas for that to make sense. Physically, I don't think so. Psychologically, perhaps. Emotionally, perhaps. Verbally, perhaps. But yeah, I don't think but I don't think abuse should be the word when it comes to it, because in their statement they said that they didn't intentionally cause emotional or physical harm to each other. And if that's the case, then if it's unintentional harm, I don't think you should call it abuse, because that the word abuse is quite heavy. So I'm not downplaying Johnny Depp's experience and saying that he had it easy in this relationship and all that. I don't think that either. I think his experience of psychological harm was real. So, and verbal harm, like, if because if those words affect him as badly as it seems to, then that's fair. But it's also, but if it's unintentional harm, because my read is that Amber doesn't know, isn't always trying to hurt him when she says the stuff that she says and does the things that she says. So, when I'm listening to both of them, it seems like the most abusive thing that they do to each other, based on the things that they've said, the recurring themes. On Amber's side, she says that the splitting was the most abusive thing that he did to her, and that would be more emotional abuse, if anything. And you can't really say that he was being intentionally malicious doing what he did. We don't know that. It might have been like giving someone the silent treatment or something. It might have been malicious, but maybe it wasn't. So that's what she's saying was the worst thing. And with him, he says that the most abusive thing that she does, it seems to be, it's whenever she gives him demands, or she says that there's routine things, like that's the thing that causes him to have, that it makes him stress out. It's causing some psychological stress, or her doing something unpredictable, an unpredictable reaction out of nowhere, yelling at him out of nowhere, something like that is what triggers him, sets him off. And I think part of that is like their experience of abuse with their parents. Like, I don't know too much about Amber's side, but Johnny Depp's side, well, with his mother, she was abusive, verbally abusive and psychologically abusive, primarily to him. And he said that she was the meanest. He said that his mother was the meanest person that he'd ever known, or something like that. He said that at her funeral. So that's interesting. I don't think Amber said anything mean enough to match that, like, to make me think that she is the meanest person ever. So I don't know if he compares Amber to his mother. I don't think I really see that with her. And I don't think Amber is known to throw things very much. Like, his mother would throw things at him and stuff and be physically abusing him, hitting him. And I don't know if Amber does that as much, if that's a thing. And when it comes to him splitting from her, his mother had this thing where she would constantly move, and he said that he moved like over 40 times when he was a child. So that's quite a lot of movement, and he found it to be stressful back then. So maybe that's one of the reasons why he splits. Like, he's just used to that since he was a child. He just leaves a lot, and his dad left, so maybe that's part of the reason for why he splits. But I don't think that they're intentionally trying to do bad things to each other. And I don't know if Amber is demanding him, or if she's, like, he's perceiving that Amber is giving him demands and routines, but maybe she isn't. I'm not sure if there's a lot of evidence to back that up. It doesn't seem like she is very demanding to him. It just seems like the tiniest request. On the tapes, she would say to him, if you're gonna split, could you, like, text me, let me know, think reasonable suggestions. And even that is being read as a demand. Like, she would say, when he would lock himself in the bathroom and she would knock on the door, and he would say that stresses him out. Her coming to him and knocking on the door was stressing him out, and it felt like a demand to him. So I thought that was interesting. The tiniest things, he sees it as being psychologically harmful, that she's being demanding, that she's mothering him. The tiniest requests, or her giving her opinion in a way, is being read as her being motherly, trying to be authoritative over him. So that's an interesting thing. And overall, I don't know if I would call this mutual abuse. Maybe it's a miscommunication thing, if anything. That's what I'm starting to see with these two. But then there's Amber's allegations, which is the thing that makes you think it is abuse, and she's the victim. So I'm just gonna discuss all that a little bit more and see why he's reading it the way he's reading it, and why she's reading it the way she's reading it. And because the mutual abuse thing, there may be something to it with them. At this point, I think for Johnny Depp, the best case scenario is that it was mutual abuse, because this conversation that he was having with Amber, the thing that she's getting picked apart over, was her saying to him to tell the world, tell them that you're a victim too of domestic abuse, both of them, and see how that sounds to people, see if it makes sense to people, him saying that it was a fair fight between them, does that make sense? And I think he has a point when he's saying that he is believable. A man is believable as a victim of physical abuse based on his experience, because he talks about his mother, and her form was, he would say, throwing an ashtray at you, beating you with a high-heeled shoe, like using weapons. Like, that doesn't, even if you're not as strong as, she's not as strong as him, using those, if you throw something at someone, it doesn't matter. It will hurt regardless. So I can see his point there, but Amber's rebuttal is like it was reactive abuse. She's doing it in self-defense because she knows that he can overpower her. And I guess the question is, was she doing this before, like based on the idea that he has been able to overpower her before? Like, has that happened where he's physically attacked her first and that she knows to throw things to stop him from getting to her? Because that's what the marriage therapist said, was that he was the instigator, and eventually she ended up being the one who initiated the fights, like later on in the marriage. Like she would hit back as a form of pride, like during their fights that he started, but eventually she started to be the one to start those fights. And maybe the marriage therapist, maybe she didn't get the information right because they didn't come at the same time. But she did say that Depp himself said that Amber gave as good as she got. So if he said that, that means that she got something. Like, it makes it seem like the mutual abuse thing makes sense, and the marriage counselor therapist has seen Amber in real life with bruises on her face. So again, you would think, okay, maybe she's self-inflicted it or this and that, but I think it's enough evidence or to think that it would be like a mutual abuse thing, that you still think that Johnny Depp would have hit her. If that's the case, that means that Johnny Depp has hit her before, right? That's the conclusion that I'm getting. And like, there's certain things that he's been quoted as saying, and it's just confusing to me. Like, I mean, so when he said that there was never a moment when his father lost control or attacked his mother, and or said a bad thing to his mother, and then you see the way that he talks back to Amber, and the verbal abuse that's been proven. The verbal abuse has been proven at this point, I'm pretty sure. So, and he said that his dad never did that. I'm sure, like, if his exes are coming forward saying nice things about him, it's doubtful that he ever spoke to them that way. Because people try to see there's a pattern. Like, why would he suddenly change and start to act this way? Like, it doesn't make sense for someone to be physically abusive at his old age. There must have been a pattern for a long time. But I don't think he spoke to his exes in this way. They always say very, very nice things about him. And it's doubtful that he's calling them, like, all the horrible names that he says to Amber, calling her trash, and what else did he say? Like, just terrible things to her face, in front of her sister, in front of her friends. He said that. So it's very believable to me that if he's going to be verbally abusive, why would he not also be physically abusive? If he's just starting the verbal abuse just now, why not start the physical abuse just now? And Amber's a different person to the other women. Like, maybe she did inspire this. Like, that's what the marriage therapist said, was that she triggered him. She reminded him of his mother, and that's why he acted that way with her. And it's interesting because his sister said that Johnny never hit back when his mother was being abusive. Like, he never fought back, and he would just run away and hide. We know that he runs away and hides from Amber, but maybe there was a time where he didn't do that, and that's why Amber's like being sarcastic with him and saying, yeah, you're doing the admirable thing by running away from me to avoid hitting me like you did in the past. Like, I feel like maybe there's certain things that people are missing from this puzzle to make it make sense. Because I don't think he was always running away from her this entire time. I think there was a time where they have been in fights, the two of them. They've been in fights that they've both been involved with, and he hasn't shared his side of the story. Amber's given her testimony where she's explained it and said, this is the fight, I slapped him, then he did this, da 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 da, and she's explained her side. He hasn't given... I think he says that he doesn't remember it. I'm not sure if I believe that he doesn't remember it, but maybe he doesn't remember it. Who knows? Well, they said that the marriage was at times. I think his lawyer said that this quote was that the marriage was at times physical at her instigation, and on occasions he found it necessary to defend himself from her violence. I thought, why? Why does he need to defend himself from her violence? What does that mean? What's her violence? What does her violence mean? When she hits him, if she threw cans at him, she said that he said, what did he do in response to that? To throwing the cans? What's his response to that? I don't know. Maybe this is talking about the headbutting thing that they said. That's also one of the things. I think it's also there's these tapes where she says, you're also involved in the fights, and he says, because I push you away, that's self-defense, I push you away. But then there's texts with his friends where he's kind of he's joking about it, and he's saying like she will hit the wall hard. And then she said stuff on the tapes like, it's not just you pushing me. You push me on the wall, and then you say, oh, do you not like the wall? Like in a taunting kind of way. And it makes it seem like it's more aggressive than what he let on. But he's just like toned it down because he doesn't want to say it on tape what he actually did. But I think he has more memory of these fights than he's saying based on that, because there are those jokes about smacking the bitch around and things like that makes me think he knows more than he said that he knows. And I guess pushing someone away doesn't make you a wife beater, but I think that there's more than that. I think he knows that there's more than what he's saying. So yeah, and then there's stuff like where his mother taught him like to fight back. What he says that he never wanted to like hurt anybody when he was a child. Like he was told to never like start a fight. But if someone like tags you or invades your world, you have to finish the fight. That's his mother's exact words of advice was like, lay them out with a effing brick or something. Yeah. That's how he was brought up. Like he feels the need to fight back and finish the fight, and that's his fatal flaw in this whole thing, to pick up a brick and lay them out. Whatever that means. But I do think that if Amber instigates, he feels the need to do something drastic to end it. And I think that's what happened in Australia. And he didn't give his side of the story. Maybe he was blacked out. Maybe he wasn't. Maybe he has more memory than he said that he has. We'll never know. His lawyer said that he is not a wife beater and never has been. Okay, that's okay, if you say so. But okay. The funny thing is, with this trial, both Amber and Johnny are saying they are the victims and the other one is the abuser. And I combed through this thing. I listened to what Johnny Depp said. I don't see, because they're talking about physical abuse, I think, mostly. That's the thing that people want to be proven. And I've been listening to the stuff that he said, and I don't see enough proof for Amber to be a physical abuser of him. Maybe the other stuff, psychological, verbal, maybe she's doing some of that. I don't see physical abuse proof. And then with Amber's allegations against him, it's possible that he did that, and he can't disprove that she did that. And she's saying that he does that during a blackout, during a drug and alcohol infused blackout. And he has this quote, like, where he's like, he doesn't like that she put the idea out there. And he says, it's very strange when one day you're Cinderella, so to speak, and then in 0.6 seconds you're Quasimodo. I didn't deserve that, nor did my children, nor did the people who have believed me in all these years. So I'm confused about what this quote means, because I know who Cinderella is. I don't know who Quasimodo is, but when I looked him up, it says that he is a dreamy, optimistic, and heroic individual. Despite his free-spirited nature, he is still subservient to his master Frollo, who treats him poorly, due to his lack of true human contact and the warnings given by Frollo to prevent him from going outside the cathedral where he lives, because he's afraid that the outside world will reject him because he is ugly. So, I mean, I don't think there's a difference between, like, he seems like, Quasimodo seems like a sweetheart. He's like Cinderella. What's the difference between Cinderella and Quasimodo? I don't see the difference between these people. I think I might have missed something, but, like, what's the big deal? Because it's not like he's a rampaging, he's not meant to be is he supposed to be a violent person? Because it doesn't seem like he's a violent person. It seems like it's one's a girl, one's a boy. What's the difference? I don't see the difference. I must have missed it. But and the thing is, like, maybe this is lending credibility to Amber, because she keeps saying the insults that she gives him is that he's an old fat man, and maybe it's like the fact that she keeps like disparaging his looks, and he's like, why are you telling me that I'm not pretty? Why are you telling everyone that I'm not pretty? And it's like, she doesn't need to say it. Like, people have eyes, people can make their own judgments. Like, it's not like her saying that he's not pretty is the thing that's making people say, hey, he's not so pretty anymore. I don't know. It's like people can tell that he's aged. People can tell that he's gained weight. Amber didn't, like, the cat is out the bag. I'm confused. Did she do something wrong? Have I missed something? This is weird. And at first, like, when I looked at Quasimodo, it's like, is it because, like, she's saying, like, the monster thing, is he supposed to be a monster, or is he looks like a human being? Is it like the Elephant Man? Yeah, maybe that. Is she saying that he looks, I don't know, maybe is he deformed? I don't know. Is there something I've missed with this? This is so confusing to me. But maybe he's saying, like, he turns it, like, Quasimodo is like a monster compared to what Cinderella is, and it's a beauty thing. It's a beauty thing, I think. I think he is, like, into his looks, and he's upset that he's, like, lost his looks more, and Amber's, like, was the prettier one of them too, and maybe that caused some jealousy. Is that a weird theory to have, that she's the Cinderella of the two of them, and he got annoyed by that? Is it possible? Maybe. But anyway, like, with the drug thing, I don't think that the monster that they're referring to is about drugs and alcohol. I don't think that's what it is in her mind or his mind. I think it's that the fact that he gets upset by these tiny, insignificant things that's what they mean when he says when it's monster. And he was the one who created the word monster. He keeps saying that's Amber's word, she created it, and she put that on him to describe drugs and alcohol. And the lawyer said, hey, no, you don't know what the monster word means to her. You speak for yourself. What do you think it means? And that's why he said it's drugs and alcohol. And the thing with that is, like, the survivor, say if we just go with Amber, like, say that she's the victim and he did the stuff that she said, and she's the survivor, she might believe his excuse to justify the violence. And because people do that, like, they often blame, like, I'm just stressed because of work, I'm just stressed because of this and that, and or it's because of the drugs, the alcohol, that's the only reason I acted that way. And because no one else in his life was holding him accountable, and he never had to face responsibility for doing the stuff that he did, she just thought, okay, maybe it is just the drugs and the alcohol. And maybe with her dad, that was the thing, because her dad was abusive, and maybe in that case, it was only because of drugs and alcohol. So maybe she thought, yeah, he can change, it's just the drugs and alcohol. However, I don't think it is the case of Johnny Depp. I think that's not why he is like that. And the domestic violence is not caused by stress, alcohol, anything like that. But they can make those issues worse. But most individuals under stress and the influence of drugs and alcohol do not batter their partners. So I don't think that was the reason why he acted that way. And he's trying to make the case of, like, maybe that's what the lawyers are saying, is like, yeah, if he never acted this way before, drugs and alcohol is not going to make you take this step. I don't think drugs and alcohol made him take that step. I think he's lying. I think he knows what he did, but he just says he's always displacing the blame on things that's not to blame. Like, now he's doing it to Amber. He's saying this is Amber's fault, when it's definitely not Amber's fault. Like, why he got fired, it's not Amber's fault. Why he hit Amber, probably it's nothing to do with drugs and alcohol. Probably nothing to do with her doing something to him first. It's something else. There's a deeper reason why he's doing it, and he's not explaining it. He's not trying to get to the bottom of why he does it. That's my theory. Otherwise, I don't know who Quasimodo is, and maybe I've missed something major that's gonna blow the whole thing wide open, but I don't know. I don't get this. After hearing the witnesses from Amber's side, I'm thinking that when she got the TRO, that her stress was genuine. Like, based on what her acting coach said, based on what her friends at the time said, it seems like they believed that she was stressed out by this thing. They said that she had lost weight, and that she's, one of her friends said that she was almost catatonic or something. And she especially the acting coach, what she said was very convincing to me, because she's not a friend exactly. She's kind of outside of all this. And the example she gave were very specific. Like, she said that she found that Johnny Depp was yelling at her in public, which is very bizarre to do. Like, yelling at her in public is a bit weird, and all her friends have heard that before. It's not a new occurrence. Even his witnesses said that, like, his security guards and stuff said that they've noticed that they have verbal fights, and he's screamed at her in public. So there's that. And her acting coach said that he was upset that she went out to get pizza and he didn't want her out by herself. That seemed pretty controlling, and that Amber would burst into tears. She used to be someone who's organized and on time all the time, but then at a certain point that she wasn't like that. She was hours late, and when she came in, she would burst into tears. She's someone who can't fake cry too well, and that's the thing that they were working on. So there's real stress happening even now. Like both the psychiatrists that evaluated her said that for PTSD and stuff, one of them said did diagnose her with PTSD. The other one said that she might have been feigning her symptoms, but also that they could at least detect that she had childhood trauma. So she's not faking that. Like, it seems like she was going through a stressful time. And if you're a casual observer and you see someone who's acting the way the acting coach, the things that she was observing, like her routine being changed that dramatically, and that she's like bursting into tears, like that's something that if you see that in real life, that's the sign that someone is a victim, that they might be a victim of abuse. If you see things like that, those are signs of it. So that this is lending credibility to Amber's side. I don't think that people can doubt the story now, because it's not fake. It's not fake. You don't need to like see if she faked her bruise. You can't. There's no evidence that she faked her bruise, but it doesn't matter, because you know that the psychological, there's emotional effects, damaging effects that you could see. And if she wanted to get a restraining order from him, that's fair enough. So I don't see what would be the problem with that. And the other thing is, like, Johnny Depp is refusing to take responsibility, and he said that the only person that he has abused is himself. I guess like he's referring to the substance abuse, and that's not true on any level. I don't think that he, based on the way he talks about his substance abuse, I don't think that he to this day, I don't think he recognizes what an issue it is. He still talks about it as if he needs the drugs. He thinks that he's a more responsible drug user. He thinks that he's in control of himself. I'm gonna choose to believe him, but that's not good for him. That's not good for him. For him to be like in his mind and calculated, that's not gonna be good for him. But I'll take him at his word when it comes to that. Like, he doesn't black out, like she says, because I think he has a lot more awareness of what he does than he lets on. So, and the other thing is, like, his drug use affects more than just himself. It affects everyone in his life. His kids can't be around him at certain points because of it. And that's something that got brought up in the trial. And Amber's affected by it. Like, she took pictures of him passed out to like alert people to what the issue was, and sent messages to her friends and like saying, look what I have to deal with. And his lawyer brought it up and made it seem like, aren't you sneaky? Don't you enjoy taking pictures of him like in this state? And she's like, no, I hate it, obviously, but I need support too. It's not just him in this. I get stressed out by it as well. And they brought up, and they keep trying to make her out, because he's trying to flip things and say that she's the abusive one in this relationship. And I don't buy it, because because the substance abuse issues changes the way you look at them. And again, his lawyer brought up her calling him numerous times, texting him, trying to prevent him from leaving and breaking his sobriety. And she's explained, that's why I was calling him, that's why I was texting him, that's why I was trying to stop him from going and ruining things, because I knew he was gonna come back. I knew he was gonna like be acting this way if he started drinking, because he gets upset with her after a fight and he tries to numb the pain by drinking and stuff like that, and she wanted to stop that. And then the lawyer tries to flip things and say, "Oh, you're being abusive. Why couldn't you give him space?" It's like, this is not a normal. This doesn't make any sense. Like, because if he did overdose, if he did do something, if he got hurt, she would blame herself forever because of that. So it's not a normal reaction. When he leaves, for her to have no contact and just be able to deal with it. That's crazy. She cares about him. Of course she's gonna text. It's weird. It's just a weird argument. And the other, oh god, they were trying to figure out like how can Amber be the abusive one? And Johnny Depp talked about her, the cruelest thing that she ever did to him was withhold his medication when he was detoxing, and it was like he has to get the medication at 4, but he asked for it at 3:15, and she said no, I have to wait till 4 because that's what the doctor said, and he said that was the cruelest thing that she ever did to him, and he said yes. Like, it's not cruel. She's just doing the right thing, and this is awful. They're trying to villainize her for doing the right thing to do. It's unbelievable that they're doing that. And then when he joked about murdering her and raping her burnt corpse because she was lecturing him to stop using drugs and alcohol, we can let that go. If this is like just based on him like on drugs and alcohol and that it's a different person, you can just like write it off. He wasn't himself. He wrote that text under the influence, so don't take it to heart. Fine. But I just want to remind people, this isn't in reaction to Amber beating him up or anything like that. When he was writing stuff like that, it wasn't in reaction to her being abusive. It was her trying to help him. He wrote stuff like that about her. Just to be clear, there was no good reason for him to write stuff like that about her. So she didn't deserve that. I don't buy him this thing where he's saying that she's the real abuser and he's a victim. It's not believable. Can you end that? End that. The psychologist from Johnny Depp's side diagnosed Amber with borderline and histrionic personality disorder, and she thought that Amber was feigning her symptoms. And even though she detected like the trauma signs, and she just attributed it to childhood trauma, and thinking that maybe the stuff that Johnny Depp did was just as bad. Like it was more exaggerated. She exaggerated the level that it was in her head, and I disagree with what her finding was. Her psychologist on her side disagreed as well, and I don't think Amber's over exaggerating, and I think a lot of people are saying that based on the bruises that she had, that she is over exaggerating the severity of what Johnny Depp does. I don't think so. I don't think, maybe people aren't understanding what she's saying when she's talking about what she's talking about, because the physical assaults that she's describing, she said that they were angry, hostile, humiliating, and threatening. That's how she described it. And she would, in her first the UK deposition, she described him holding her down, hitting her for a long time with an open hand. That's not necessarily something that will leave bruising. And this is the type of thing that could go on for hours. Who knows? Like, what does she mean by a long time? This is the kind of thing that could go on for a really long time, what she's describing. And he's doing it as what she's saying, it's a show of dominance. And he's also being very verbally abusive, emotionally abusive. When he's doing that, she can't escape, she can't leave. When she tries to leave, it doesn't help. He just gets more angry. Nothing she did would ever make him stop hitting her. These aren't things that lead to bruising, though, based on what she's saying. And there are only like a few slip-ups here and there where something has led to bruising. It seems like the head-butting that led to bruising. Some things here and there led to some marks, but most of the time it doesn't lead to bruising. And I think this is a very common domestic abusive thing that happens with a lot of people, where there's not going to be any physical signs. There's physical abuse like that's very psychologically harmful. You can have PTSD from it. But you will never have bruises. You can never prove it because someone is stronger than you. They're holding you down. It's by surprise. Like, he is the unpredictable one based on what she's saying. Like, insignificant things set him off. She doesn't know what is going to be the thing that set him off. Even in the video that she recorded, she's not necessarily scared that he's going to kill her in that moment. Most of the time, there's not a threat to life. It's just that he's saying stuff like, I'm gonna kill you, and threatening her in all these ways. But it's not, she doesn't necessarily believe it, but there's a possibility, like, because there's been 2 incidents that actually did make her fear for her life. And it makes sense to me when she's describing it. And compared to her dad, I don't know what her dad did, but when she's spoken to her parents about it, she says that Johnny Depp and her dad are different. Like, when Johnny Depp says, like, Amber reminds him of his mother, I don't know if that's true. Because I think, if anything, Johnny Depp himself reminds me of his mother. I think he's the one who's being unpredictable. He's the one who smashes things and throws things, and has the more erratic behaviour. I don't think Amber's like that. I think Amber's behaviour makes sense. His behaviour is the one that doesn't make sense. And Amber said that he is different. His abuse is different from her dad's abuse. And just because, like, they're both alcoholics and addicts, like, it's not this. They do it in a very noticeably different way. Something that she's not experienced before. It's a different kind of thing. Maybe there's some similarities, but then there's something that Johnny Depp is doing it's worse than anything from before. And she said that she texted her mother that he makes dad look like a saint when he falls off the wagon. And she also said that she called him a madman, and she said that that he could like the physical assaults that she was saying, like him like slamming her up against the wall and slams her by the neck, holds her there for a second, and says that he could kill her. Like, there's stuff like that he can, like, it's not gonna leave any trace. I don't think her dad would have said stuff like that to her. It's a different kind of thing. Like saying that she was an embarrassment, that she made him feel sick. I don't think her dad added those verbally abusive things. And that's the thing that Johnny Depp's mother might have done. Like, he called his mother, like, the meanest person ever. And he doesn't go into detail, but I'm wondering, does she say stuff like that? Because this is different. Amber doesn't say stuff like that to Johnny Depp. Amber is nowhere near as verbally abusive as Johnny Depp is. And that's all coming from his mother, I think. But it's just, it's not the same thing. And like with the tattoo that he got on his hand and her story of it, I can't get over how detailed and specific that story was and how much sense it makes to me. I find it hard to believe that that's not true. And it, like, putting on his hand, apologizing to her, and then saying, I would never lay this hand on you ever again. And then it just does seem like typical abuser strategies of, like, love bombing. So it makes her seem so credible to me. Like, her saying that he would punch the walls next to her head and shove her to the ground and slap her repeatedly. That's the stuff that she's saying was the main occurring thing over and over again. And that's what his dad did. His dad would punch walls. Like, maybe that's something that he picked up from his parents. But this is not coming from, this is not Amber's parents. I don't think that they did stuff like that. So, I don't know. I find it hard to switch to Johnny. I gave him a good try, but I don't believe that he was the victim in this. There's this one tape that I don't think people pay enough attention to, where it seems like it's proof that Johnny Depp knows that he hits her or something, because he said to her, write me a letter and put it in an envelope every morning if you want, or on our little notebook. And she's like, what you do wrong? And he's like, no, just write, please love me today, please don't hurt me today, please don't get crazy today. And then, like, and she's like, okay, but then what happens if one of us gets hurt or mad? Because that's life, and it will come up. If we don't do things differently, then I want a list of things that we don't do. I can't keep throwing our relationship in the air every time we get mad, because all bets are off. Every time the blood pressure gets up to a certain amount. This just seems like proof, like, that he is abusive, because he's saying, like, that she should write to him to not hurt her today, for him to not get crazy today. How's that not proof? It's not something that you would do to a victim. Like, if you were the victim, this isn't the way you go about it. This is a very unusual request. I don't know how other people are interpreting this whole thing. I don't understand it. I don't think she understands it either. Does anyone understand what he means by that? But I think it's like the experience that Amber's going through, like, it's just like he's trying to put the responsibility of him getting mad, of him hurting her, in her hands. Like, saying if she didn't remind him to not hurt her, that's why he ended up hurting her. Do you know what I mean? It's weird. It's so weird what this means. I've never heard of anything like this before. Has anyone had someone do this? Because because if it's like a blackout, and she was saying, like, you want me to write down what you did to me during a blackout, and he's like, no, don't do that. It's like, it's confusing what he means by this. Like, please love me today, please don't. I'm so confused. It's so confusing. At this point, if I'm gonna read Johnny Depp as an abuser for 1 second, not this isn't my conclusion overall, but this could be him trying to do mind control tactics. Like, it's making her feel like she's the one in control of him, like making her, like, saying that she should be the one telling him what to do, telling him what not to do. And it's not right. Like, when he acts out, if what she's saying is true and he's being physically abusive in the way that she said, and then afterwards being like, look what you made me do, you didn't remind me, this and that, it's just not the way to go about it. He's just placing blame on her for his own actions. And this is the trouble with, like, it is kind of mind control. And when he was talking about his mother's abuse, he said that there was that physical abuse aspect, and that was what made everyone in the house kind of on edge. Like, it was a constant threat that could happen at any moment, and everyone was a little bit. He said we were all somewhat shell shocked. She'd walk past and you chilled yourself because you didn't know what would happen. So that was interesting. Like, I can relate to that experience that he was describing, and I'm wondering if he's doing the stuff that his mother did and he's putting it on Amber, and that could be the difference. Like, because the way she's describing it, I believe that Amber was stressed out. I think she was genuinely stressed out. His behaviour is stressful. If you take the physical abuse out the window, just based on the substance abuse, the splitting is enough to stress someone out to the level that she was stressed out. And like anything she does, he does blame her for it. And it's this feeling that she's walking on eggshells in her own home, and trying to not set him off, and she has no idea what's gonna set him off. He doesn't explain it to her, and and the way that he's undercutting her achievements all the time, making her feel bad about herself, degrading her. He's cutting her down a little bit more every time, and that's how mind control happens. Like, feeling that, like, she's not herself. Like, that's what she's been saying on the stand. Like, and some of those allegations, maybe those aren't true, all of them, about this coercive control and the surveillance in her work and all that stuff. Maybe that's not completely true. Like, she's saying that he was in her head, that she couldn't think for herself, and she didn't really know who she was anymore. And there is some damning things in his verbal abuse, like saying to her, you don't exist. Telling her that she doesn't exist. He said that multiple times. He kept telling her that she doesn't exist. And that she was trash, and this constant psychic pressure that he's putting, and like trying to minimize who she is as a person, making her feel small in that way. And when she's talking to her mum, she's like, there is like physical things that happen. Like, he throws stuff, he smashes things. Like, that's the thing that we know that he does. And she texts her saying, it's okay, Mom, he's not being violent with me, he's just raging in general. That's what she said. But she could have been, maybe she's like, if the physical abuse is like, it's like him holding her down, hitting her, she's not having a lot of bruises from what he did. Maybe she's not like describing it as physically abusive because she's trying to cover up for him. but maybe it was like for a long time it's been like that and he's not acknowledging it. I'm distrustful of who he is now, because I think that there are signs of this happening. And some of the things that Amber's being criticized for, like coming back to him after she got the restraining order, that's, if there's this, I do think that there is a mind control aspect. Maybe he doesn't know, maybe he did it unknowingly and he didn't mean to do it like that. Who knows? But that's what makes it really hard to leave the abusive partner. Like, if the victim wants to end the relationship, because it seems like that's what she kept trying to do. She kept trying to break up with him quietly, and he kept getting back together with her, apologizing, and that's why she kept going back to him. And now, like, that she left him, like, he's kind of like doubling down, tripling down, like what he's done, like doing these lawsuits, so that she can't leave, like making her out to be, like, I think that she is the victim and he's making her out to be crazy. But at the same time, like back then when she got the TRO, you can read it as he is the victim. Like, based on those tapes, you can read that he is the victim and that she was trying to make him miserable and then try to get back together with him. So, like, trauma bonding, like, she accused him of this thing that he didn't do, like the bruise. Maybe she faked the bruise. He didn't do that, and she came to comfort him, tried to hug him, try to get him back. Maybe that's what she was trying to do, and say the only, because he broke up with her, the only way out of this mess is if they get back together. Maybe that was her plan, and it didn't work, and then that's what that was about. So that could be something that, like, maybe she messed up in that way, but it still makes me think that she would be the victim if she screwed up. She accused him of something he didn't do, because she freaked out because she doesn't know who she is without him. That's how it works. Like, because usually it's the victim that leaves the person, and I think that he thinks that he's the victim in this situation. I have my own theories as to why he thinks that, but because he left her, because he thinks that she's the abusive one, and she did this thing. I think in her head, genuinely, she was like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do without this guy in my life. Like, he's such a guiding person for her, and that's the thing with a lot of his exes. It seems like after they break up, they have this really dark period. Winona Ryder said that she fell into a depression after him. Kate Moss as well, she said that she was kind of lost after they broke up. So I don't know what he's doing in these relationships, but it seems like there's a codependency thing happening where when he's the central person in their life is gone, they panic, they feel lost, they feel empty, and because they feel responsible for the relationship problems because the abuser blames them for doing the things that happen. Like, I'm just curious, like, it just seems like she is the victim. I can't see any way, but he has victim. I can see why people see him as the victim as well. That perspective is making sense to me based on what she did. But I also don't think that she faked that bruise. If I'm being completely honest, I think that he caused that bruise, and that he knows that he caused that bruise, and that he was upset with her for telling people about it. And now there's like this whole thing of like saying that she's the crazy one, that she's the actual abuser, like she's hysterical, women are crazy, and she's inadequate and weaker than him, and she was just using him, and that's why she came up with this scheme. She's a gold digger. it's just going with all these things of like, no one will believe you, because women don't get believed, and those are the reasons why they don't get believed, and he's putting that on her, and I think she should be believed. There's no reason to disbelieve Amber. What is making her a disbelievable person? I mean, if you truly think about it, how is she not credible to you? This whole thing comes down to he said, she said, and who is telling the more believable story. And she gives her side of the event, and he gives his side. And there's some things like proving that there's other witnesses to say this happened, this didn't happen. And some things that it's just makes you lean more to Amber's side. For example, the Hicksville thing, where the trailer thingy that they were in was trashed. Her witnesses said that it looked like a bomb went off, that everything was broken, this and that. Her dress got ripped. People noticed that. And then that he had to pay to fix it. The owners of the place were upset because people were coming in straight after, and they didn't like that he broke everything, and he just tried to pay for everything and think that could fix it. So they were very annoyed with him with that. So that's something that was proven. There's something else that Am is adding in her testimony, where she's alleging that he sexually assaulted her. And if all those things that she said made sense, like everything was a fact, like all the things leading up to it was true. The only thing that we can't verify is the sexual assault that happened. There's no way to prove that a sexual assault in the way that she's describing. There's no way to prove something like that happened. So you just have to decide if you're going to take her word for it or his. And he's not going to admit to doing something like that. Even if he remembers doing it, he's not going to admit to doing something like that. And so I think you just do lean to believing her when it comes to stuff like that. And that's why with everything that she's saying, I don't see any way of disproving anything that she said in this whole time. And so when it comes to like figuring out like who is the abuser in this situation, because she's saying that she's not a victim, she's a survivor. She doesn't like the word victim, and that's where the mutual abuse thing comes in, because a lot of victims don't feel like victims when they're in that position, and she's someone that fights back. And I think that that's normal, like even for children, like there's different ways to fight back, and she was doing it somewhat like throughout that time, and again maybe believing his excuses that it was based on the drugs and the alcohol that he was acting that way. And when they released the statement, they said that their relationship was like bound by love, but there were at times it was volatile. And like volatile means like when someone has a really strong, unpredictable reaction that makes you feel scared, confused, or intimidated. When they released that statement, the word volatile, who was being volatile? Was Amber ever someone who was volatile with him? Did she ever make him feel scared, confused, or intimidated? I don't think he's ever given an example in his stories where she ever did that to him. She ever provoked those feelings. Maybe confusion, but the other things, I don't think she ever scared him or intimidated him. But she's giving a lot of examples of where she felt scared and intimidated and confused by the things that he did. And I can understand why. If her stories are true, you can understand why. Even the things that are verified, like him trashing areas. Like, I don't know anyone who does that, who breaks stuff like that in real life. So if someone did that, I would think, yeah, they're volatile. I don't know what this is. This is strange, bizarre behavior. Him ruining her clothes based on imaginary affairs. That's volatile. I don't know. It's a very strong, unpredictable reaction that doesn't make any sense. Based on like the typical abuser strategies, it seems like Johnny Depp is employing like all of them and using it against her. Like things like well, the only thing that you might think that he's not doing is isolation, because he moved in her friends to be right next to where they live. However, I wouldn't take that to mean very much, because as actors they travel a lot, and she's not necessarily around her friends when some of these things happen. She's abroad, she's isolated when the big major things happen, like Australia was where something happened, London, Tokyo, France. I think he has like a very remote house there that no one will know. Like she is isolated when the big assault things happen that she's describing. There's maybe like little things that happen in the home, like, but most of the time she's far away from people when the major things happen. So I do think like isolation. You see the love bombing when he tries to get her back. He does these grand, extravagant gifts to get her back. I think there's the coercive control. You can see it a little bit. Surveillance. If her allegations are true and that he has people on the film sets watching what she's doing. Gaslighting, definitely. I think with these, with the psychologist diagnosing her with histrionic and borderline personality, that seems like gaslighting on a really big scale. Possessiveness, like just telling her that she doesn't exist. Like the way he treats her, he is objectifying her too much for my liking. Manipulation, there's certain things like in their conversation, he's very manipulative when he speaks to her. I notice it all the time. He's just constantly manipulative. He can't stop being manipulative in his words. Guilting her, making her take the blame for things, using his children to be emotionally manipulative as well. Just always deflecting responsibility, creating this third party monster, saying that the monster is doing it, blaming it on the drugs and alcohol. Like threats, threatening her, like the lawsuits, like is threatening her in a way. And he's using it's economic abuse. Like after this, who knows if she'll be able to work after this. He's gone out of his way to ruin her life. And using male privilege, yes, I definitely think that's something that's going on. Because this thing is like, no one's going to believe you because you're a man. No one's going to believe her now because she's a woman. And you're saying that women are unbelievable. They lie all the time. They're crazy. And he's saying that that's what she does. I don't think that's true. I don't think Amber's a liar. I don't think she's crazy at all. I don't know where people come to that conclusion from. I don't see it. I've never seen it. Based on those tapes, she doesn't seem like a crazy person when you listen to those tapes. She doesn't seem like a liar when you listen to those tapes. So how are people coming to that conclusion? And I don't know. I don't know if he is intentionally doing it or this is happening by accident. Why is Amber the only one who's experienced it? A lot of his exes have signed NDAs. There's that one who testified, Ellen Barkin, who said that he threw wine bottles near her head. He gets angry a lot. He's violent. Just generally, there's a violent air around him. He has like some rage issues, but he's like a nice person at the same time. So and he would disappear for weeks with no word, no way to contact him. Like that's what Amber said. That's what Ellen said. He disappears for a long time, and no one can contact him. But then he comes back, and he's very nice. So I can believe Amber way more than him. And that's how I come to that conclusion. In order for the jury to side with Johnny Depp on this thing, they have to believe that Amber, who is a relatively unknown actress at the time of knowing Johnny Depp, that she was able to seduce and trick this much older, wealthier guy, get him to marry her without a prenup, and after doing that, that's when she started to beat him. Even though he has all these security around him, she was able to do that, to beat him up with that, and even before that, she was planting evidence of him beating her up 3 years in advance. She was able to orchestrate all of that, and that was her evil plan. And it's unbelievable. That's what she's saying to the jury. Like, this is unbelievable. Like a secret fight club, or I have a makeup team to do what I'm saying. Like, it doesn't make any sense. You saying that I'm faking it is not going to make any sense to people. And now that he's filed this lawsuit, this completely unwinnable lawsuit where he's accusing her of ruining his life based on an article that didn't even use his name, he's put her in this very unusual, interesting power position. And what I've wanted for Amber to do from the very beginning is just treat this whole thing as a joke, because it's a joke. And I think she's doing it a little bit. I hope that she is. Like, there's these conspiracy theories that she's taunting him and mimicking his outfits to make fun of him, that she just thinks he's stupid, and she's just like, she thinks he's an idiot for doing all this, and then she's like staring at him constantly when he's telling these stories, and just trying to like break him down. People are like, oh, she's psychologically tormenting him. I'm thinking, I hope she is. I hope she's knowingly psychologically tormenting him. And victims can do that. If there's anything a victim can do to fight back, they do it. Like, if you watch Matilda, that's what she did to her parents. Like, they're like, I'm bigger than you, I'm better than you, I'm stronger than you, you can't fight back. And she's like, well, I'm smarter than you, so I can fight back. And that's maybe what Amber was doing to him in the relationship. Maybe she was smarter than him, and she psychologically broke him down in various ways that couldn't be proven. I don't think she ever beat him up, because he never described a situation where she beat him up. I don't think she's a physical abuser of him. Maybe psychological. Maybe she is psychologically abusing him in various ways. Maybe she's bringing these guys back to her house as a way to psychologically torment him and confuse him and, like, make him think that she's having affairs. If he's accused her of having imaginary affairs with Billy Bob Thornton, maybe she's bringing these guys back to be like, well, maybe I'm having an affair with this person. What do you think? And she's just trying to poke at him. Who knows? She's more interesting to me if that's how she's thinking. And one of the things that's making her more believable to me compared to Johnny Depp when he tells his story. Johnny Depp is so vague in his stories. Like, he said this thing about her making an 18-year-old adult cry just because she kicked him out of a conversation. That 18-year-old cried. And I'm just wondering, what does she say to do that? He's not specific enough. And it makes me think, is this a made-up story? Does he not have any examples of Amber being a mean person and he's just making this stuff up? Whereas Amber quotes him. She says line by line, this is what he says to me. He says, he said to me, you want to go, little girl? And that's something that I can imagine him saying. Like, all these things that we've heard on the tapes of things that he said. And because she was taking notes, maybe she crafted these things to fit in with what he's saying, because it's all making her story believable. We've heard him say things like that on those tapes, so it's not going to be hard to believe. Like, him pushing her pelvis down, being like, you think you're tough? And then that's also something that you think, maybe he did do that. Maybe he did say something like that to her. Like, it all fits. and she's quoting, she's being that specific. How could she make all of this up? And he put her like as a survivor, as a victim, he put her in this amazing power position to be able to do this. And I think it's a beautiful thing to witness. I'm enjoying all of this so much. With the information that I've gotten about Johnny from all these witnesses, I'm going to throw back this idea one more time. This idea of pathological demand avoidance to explain everything that he's doing, the way he is, just in general. I think this can fit with what's happening with him, because I don't think there's so many ways he's not adding up as being an abusive person, an intentionally abusive person. It doesn't seem intentional in some ways. And people with pathological demand avoidance have this strong, like they're independent, creative, charismatic, compassionate, humorous, imaginative, and that can explain like why he has that good side of him that everyone loves. However, there is this thing where he's like extremely socially manipulative. He's always avoiding doing things that he doesn't want to do, like just avoiding things like in general that doesn't make any sense. And I think when it comes to this, what happened in Australia, these two sides of the story, where Amber's saying she's giving her allegations of what went down, and he is saying, I'm not, what you said is wrong. I locked myself into 5 bathrooms, 2 bedrooms, something like that. And she kept coming to get me. She's the real abuser. And I'm trying to like put it together. It's like she said that he went into a state of psychosis, and that's why he was acting the way he acted. And I can only relate to, because I relate to Johnny Depp a lot. Like when I was listening to him, I related to a lot of the stuff that he was saying and doing. And I felt like I could understand, if he's anything like me, I think I can understand this. And there's certain things where he talks about, like, him doing drugs and alcohol. It's not affecting him as much as she's saying it does. And I can agree, I can think that that's maybe the possibility. Like, he's not as affected by the drugs and alcohol as Amber thinks. I think he lies to Amber. Like, I'm saying that he was blacked out. Maybe he's not blacked out in the way that she's saying he is. Maybe he is. We'll never know. We'll never know for sure unless he says, no, I wasn't blacked out and I did do this, and this. But, like when a thing that happened quite a few times was that he said that he hadn't eaten in like 3 days straight. And instead he was like doing a lot of drugs and alcohol in that time. And for me, like, I can relate to that, like not eating for 3 days straight. Maybe that's something that happened, like, and it's got nothing to do with drugs and alcohol. Maybe that's something that he was just avoiding in general. And he's putting it in like, oh, I'm avoiding food because of drugs and alcohol. That's why I'm avoiding food. But maybe he has like a build-up of stress. It builds up and builds up for a long time. And when it explodes, it may have exploded and been onto Amber, sprayed his anger and hatred on Amber, and it's got nothing to do with her. She didn't do anything wrong. She was just in the way when his explosion happened. And that's something that can happen. Like, he says that like the escalation can be with people with pathological demand avoidance. Like, they have a build-up of stress and they keep their mask on. And there's the anxiety that's building up and building up for a very long time. And I think with his other relationships, maybe this didn't happen because he was able to escape. He never had to put this on them. He breaks he trashes hotel rooms, doesn't do anything to people, except if someone gets in his way. Maybe Amber got in his way. Maybe Amber was pushing him, knocking on the door, trying to get him out, trying to work things out. That was constantly pushing him more and more and more. And then you see the fight, flight, or freeze and panic response. Like, you can see the running away, you can see the aggression, you can see the shutdown. The thing with his finger, maybe that's self-harm. I think that could have been self-harm. Like, if you think about why Van Gogh cut off his ear, there was a fight with a friend or something, and then he did it because he had a nervous breakdown. Johnny Depp said, "I had a nervous breakdown." There's evidence of him like doing self-harm, trying to like get Amber to cut him. There's stuff like that happening, and I think it's like a build-up. Like, Amber's pushing him. No one ever pushes him. No one ever treats him like Amber does. No one's getting in his face, trying to criticize him in the way that Amber does, and that's what makes him respond in that way. And Amber, I don't think Amber's being malicious. I think she's just knocking on the door, trying to get him out, trying to talk to him, and that is building up and stressing him out more and more, even though she has no bad intentions when she's doing what she's doing. So I think this is something that he should consider, like, moving forward. Like, this could be what's going on with him. And this PDA branch of, like, autism was not a thing when he was young. It came out in the 80s, and maybe that's why people didn't think that it could be something that he had. He was diagnosed with ADHD, and that can explain a lot of the symptoms and cover up like, maybe he had autistic traits the whole time, but people didn't notice, and they just attributed it to, like, ADHD, and he's also just a little bit weird. They didn't go further than that, and maybe this is the true explanation for what's going on with him. And him saying that he's using drugs, that he needs drugs to mask his symptoms, I think it's got something to do with, like, sensory issues. Like, I think it's like a build-up of, like, having to mask his symptoms all the time, sensory issues, all of that is leading to these explosive moments. Like, she's saying, like, for 3 months, everything is great. It's just, like, he has this one blow-up. Like, for months, everything's great, everything's nice, and then he has this one day where or a few days where things just completely crash. And I think this can explain what it is. With PDA, what you can see is, like, there's sometimes, like, this irrational quality to the avoidance. Like it seems like a very dramatic reaction to a tiny request. Like, and that's what I'm hearing on these tapes. Like, Amber's making very reasonable small requests from him, and he sees it as that she's demanding him, that she's attacking him. Like, he has this need to resist normal everyday demands made by others, and this seems to be a problem in his life. Like, he has this with work, he has this issue with lateness, and maybe that's, like, ADHD is the explanation for why he has trouble, like, being on time. But I think it can go further than that. Like, everything he does is not normal. Like, all his everyday demands, like, it's difficult for him to do what he's being told to do, not just by Amber, but by anyone. He feels stressed out when anyone tells him what to do. His lawyers told him to settle this lawsuit and not do this thing, and he refused to listen to what they had to say. And she's saying, like, he's surrounded by yes men. No one disagrees with him. No one tells him what not to do. And I think it's an issue. Whenever someone tells him what to do, it's an issue. And there's things that he avoids, like, even things that he likes, it seems that he wants to avoid it when he knows it's a demand. Like the boots routine. Like, he said that Amber took off his boots every day and put it to the side, and it was a nice thing. He enjoyed that she did that. And then when Amber allegedly got upset that he took off his own boots. I don't know if Amber's downplaying her reaction to it and she really was upset that he took off his own boots. Or is it like what Amber said, where she's like, I'm fine with him taking off his own boots. I don't have an issue with that. I don't know, maybe he's just exaggerating it and saying, like, she's demanding me, she's saying this to me. And it's possible, there's times on those tapes where Amber's saying, she's just asking him to stay, and he's like, she won't let me leave, she's so controlling. And it's like, she will let you leave, she's just asking you to stay. And there's a difference between those two things. And he's making her seem to be more controlling than she actually is, based on the evidence. She's not as controlling as he's making her out to be. And that there are things where they say that she runs after him and tries to stop him from leaving. There's no evidence of that. These are just stories that he told. We don't know if she actually did run after him. We don't know if she tried to pull him back. She grabbed his collar. There's something where someone said that she did that. She tried to grab him and pull him back. And she said, no, he was grabbing my hair. I don't know if Amber ever pulled him back. It's just he said, she said. I don't know what to believe. But I don't know if Amber did do that. And maybe he's someone who did do that. She's like, you grabbed me, you forced me to stay here when I don't want to be here. And he never denies it on the tapes. Like when she says, you don't like it when I leave, when I try to leave, you don't like it. And he never denies it. So that's why I'm more leaning to her side, because he's never denied it on those tapes. And with her, she's never grabbing him, never pulling him back. She's just saying to him, it stresses me out when you leave. She's asking him to stay. She's not going too far in what she's doing. When you're fairly considering the circumstances and that he has these substance abuse issues, her reaction is not over dramatic, in my opinion. And like, I think like the resistance to avoid everything that she's asking him to do is like, it maybe is because of this anxiety thing that he needs to feel like he's in control at all times. And when he talked about his drug abuse, he said that he was feeling so much of the chaotic nature of what they were living through. And I think he displaced the blame and said it's his mother. Like, it's a little bit, it is his mother, but I think just in general, even if his mother wasn't like that, I think that he would still be the same way. And him using these drugs to numb at age 11, it's not a justified, it doesn't make enough sense based on what I'm hearing. It's not making him seem normal to me. I think there's a bigger issue going down for him to use drugs at that age to numb the symptoms of what was happening. And it's mainly, his mother was mainly like verbally abusive, and the threat, like anything could happen at all times. He's the one who breaks stuff. He was always someone who smashed things in anger this entire time, and I think it's a blow up based on the build up of anxiety. And the other thing, like, people who have pathological demand avoidance have these obsessions which tend to be social in nature, and they can be overpowering in their liking for certain others. Most behaviour is obsessive, especially the demand avoidance, and can lead to low levels of achievement. So the way he is with Amber, like, this is why I felt like they were both decent people on the tapes, is because he says that he gets jealous, he gets irrational when she's away, and he can't help that he feels that way. It's not a problem that he feels that way, it's just those are his feelings, and I understand why he would feel that way. Like, long distance relationships are difficult, so fair enough, but I do think that he's being overpowering with it. So I think that might be what's happening, like the coercive control, the surveillance that Amber's alleging he did. Maybe it wasn't like trying to be malicious, trying to control her as much as it seems. Maybe it was more accidental. His exes haven't said anything when it comes to that. Like, do they get upset when they're away? Because they are busy as well. They both work. Like Winona Ryder, Kate Moss. Was that ever a thing where he was questioning them? Was he ever jealous in that same way? Because he definitely does say that he's jealous when it comes to Amber. So her allegations of that kind of abuse, I think that they probably are valid. He took an uncredited role in London Fields, and he was in that film for a while. So, and that's the film that he was accusing her of having affairs with people with, and apparently those affairs did not happen. That he said Billy Bob Thornton, that didn't happen. So I'm wondering if that's maybe what that's about. And like he is obsessed with Amber Heard in an unusual way. It's different from the others. Amber's a different person than the others. He likes Amber. He had more in common with Amber, and he thought that things with them was going to be the right thing. And because it didn't work, he still hasn't let it go. I still don't think he's over this girl. In a weird way, I still don't think he's over her. And I'm not sure what's gonna, like, he just needs to, like, figure this out. Because it's strange that he keeps pulling her back into his life. After all these years, he keeps trying to bring her back. So the symptoms of PDA are like that you resist demands obsessively, and that's something that you would see with like 100% of people who have this do resist demands obsessively. They can't help but to try to find a way to avoid it, and socially manipulative. Like, even when he's like asked basic questions on the stand, he would go on these long tangents where he basically did not answer the question that was being asked, and that's what the lawyers kept saying. And that's something that you see in pathological demand avoidance, like this pervasive drive for autonomy. He can't be controlled. He can't let other people dictate what he does. He has to find ways where he's somehow in control of the situation. And like being an actor, like it's like comfortable in pretend play and taking it to an extreme extent. I think one of the reasons why he's good at what he does is that he has a different take. He tries to be imaginative and come up with a way of like not doing exactly what he's being told to do. So like with the Pirates of the Caribbean thing, it was like not exactly what they wanted for the character. I don't remember the name of the pirate, but the pirate, he made a different thing than what it was supposed to be. And that's something that you see with all his characters. He changes it up from what he's being told to create. And I think that's why he's good at what he does. And that's something that you would see, like, this is how PDA can like make those things good, like using your social skills to manipulate. Like it makes sense for like everything that I'm seeing him do. It fits into this kind of thing. Like, and when Amber's and his friend Io was testifying, like saying that he was his friend, but at some point realizing that maybe he's not his friend. Like, I think there's this surface sociability. Like, everyone's saying that Johnny Depp is a nice person, and he's a nice person because he says hello to people. Like, and just like on the surface, knowing what to do to be nice to people. However, I think it does lack depth. Like, for a lot of people, it's not. He's not showing who he is as much. Like, he's not like people are saying, like, him doing this thing, going to trial and saying all this stuff, it's not what he wants to do. He doesn't want to do this. I think he doesn't care. I don't think he feels pride or shame. That's the only way to explain why he's doing what he's doing, like revealing those texts that he sent out to people. It makes it seem like he doesn't embarrassed. He doesn't care what people think about him. And he said that before. He says that he doesn't care what people think about him. And people are saying, like, this must be so hard for him. Shame on Amber for putting him through this. He's the one who put her through this. He's the one filing the lawsuits. It's his choice. He's the one in control. He's always the one in control. And that's the thing that you need to remember, that he doesn't let people take control. Ever. That's his issue. It's not necessarily an issue. I don't think that means that there's anything wrong with him. And like saying that, why would you hit someone to change their mind? I don't think that's why he, based on Amber's description, I don't think he hits Amber to change her mind. I think he just does it to show control, to just prove that he's in control. Because Amber and him, they seem like a well-matched couple to me. They seem like equals to me. They do seem like equals. If money and fame is not a factor, they seem like equals to me. Even with the age difference, I still see that. And when she's just saying that he got in her head, I'm not sure if I believe her. I don't know if he got in her head. I don't know if he psychologically got to her. I think emotionally he did. I think she was more emotionally invested. But I don't know if he affected her in those ways. I think psychologically, maybe she is a little bit stronger than him. Maybe she is. And it's hard to know, because she can be lying and he can be lying. We don't know exactly what's going on. If he ever broke her down on a psychological level, maybe she's taking that up a notch, because he did do those things. He did do surveillance things, and she, even if it didn't affect her, maybe she didn't feel that worried about that part. But I think it did. There's certain things that she's texted about him, like saying this Jekyll and Hyde personality, that he can switch from being passive to really aggressive very quickly. She says that there's a switch that flips in you, and you get mad and you stay mad and you never come down. You don't know how to self-soothe when you get to that point. And she sent an email describing it as like Jekyll and Hyde personality. And that's something that you see specifically with PDA. And like even implied demands, like knocking on the door, like it says like the child will assume the next thing will be a demand. Like, that's what she was saying. Like, when she would knock on the door, he was saying that stresses me out. And she's like, even that stresses you out. So what am I meant to do? How are we ever going to figure this thing out if that stresses you out? If I yell at you, this stresses you out. If I tell you what to do, this stresses you out. If I just knock on the door and try to be nice and try to bring things down, that stresses you out. If we take space, like you say, and cool off, I just want a specific time where we can come back and fix it. But whenever we do that, you just run away. You leave for hours. We say we're going to take a break for 5 minutes and you leave for hours. I don't trust you with this. And I think it's because of these demands. Like, the tiniest things feel like demands to him. And then I was saying, like, why is he never comes up with ideas to work things out? And when it comes to that weird exchange that they had about him, is like, write me a letter and put it in an envelope every morning if you want, or on our little notebook, just to say, like, please love me today, please don't hurt me today, please don't get crazy today. And I didn't understand what that meant. I don't think Amber understood what that meant. She was like, how is that gonna make any sense? Like, and I think it maybe does make sense. If it's pathological demand avoidance, he's trying to figure out a way where he can take what she's saying, but he doesn't like to hear it coming directly out her mouth. I think he's like, if you write it down, maybe that's a little bit different, like using visual structures of ground rules, putting it on the walls to refer to. Like, that's a way of getting those demands in a way that's indirect enough. And the way it's worded, like, please don't. instead of telling him, don't do this, don't do it, like saying please don't, like it's not a direct demand. If you say please, he's still having some control. And I think that's what he needs. He needs people to put it like that in order for it to hit with him. And moving forward, I think he should look into this, because I think this could be what his issue is. And if he has issues with the drugs, he needs to like figure that out. And I think that the problem is this, that he's getting demands and it stresses him out. He has anxiety because of it, and he doesn't know where to pinpoint where it's coming from. And the thing with like the food, like that was a big thing to me, like him avoiding food for 3 days, because that's something that you can see with pathological demand avoidance. When it hits to that level, like it's almost a manic state. It seems like a manic state when people are at their breaking point of the build-up of the stress. And what happened in Australia, he's saying that he locked himself away. We know at the end of it, he's not locked away. He came out, he severed his finger, and he was writing with blood that came directly out of his finger. He was writing on the walls with it. He did that. There's proof of that. There's evidence of that. You can't deny that he did that. He came out of those rooms, wherever he was locked into. He came out of those rooms and he wrote on everything. So that's, I mean, he can't say that he didn't do what Amber did, because eventually he did come out of those rooms and he did something. Maybe he remembers what he did, maybe he didn't, but he did do something. And because he came out and his finger got cut off. If Amber threw something at him, that means he got out of those at some point and something happened. And he's not given his side of the story enough to explain what it was. So, yeah, maybe he remembers, maybe he doesn't. With or without drugs, the not eating for 3 days, because I'm relating like to that. That can happen with or without drugs. It's not all about the drugs. And I wonder if like there's certain things like him, like she said, that he passes out and he doesn't clean up after himself. He has people who work for him that clean up after him. And it's a way of avoiding those everyday demands, perhaps. And it seems like a possibility. I hope he looks into it. I hope he gets better in the future and figures stuff out, because it's not her fault. None of this is her fault, in my opinion. But let me know what you think.